Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Ellie, aka Looks from the Crypt, and today we're gonna get into some more Halloween goodness. So, this whole month has been about Halloween, of course. So, my last little bit for the season is getting into some rock and roll horror movies. And by rock and roll horror movies, I mean movies that are horror movies that have some sort of element where a big part of the story has to do with rock and roll or heavy metal. However, both these movies both happen to take place on slash around Halloween, so they're Halloween movies in addition to being heavy metal horror movies, which I'm a sucker for it all. Therefore, today we're going to be getting into two absolute classics, a rock and roll Halloween double feature, starting with Trick or Treat and Rocktober Blood. And if that sounds like fun to you, grab a snack, grab a drink, and keep on watching. And personally, I am a sucker for a rock and roll horror movie. That's like one of my favorite like subgenre. And like to the point where I even have like a section of rock and roll horror movies on my VHS shelf. Like I do not play when it comes to this genre. First off, we were starting with Trick or Treat. I have two copies of this. You're gonna laugh. So, this is what the DVD release looks like, which is really funny because it has Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne on the cover, who they just have cameos. They were in this movie for fucking less than 5 minutes combined. They were in here for literally seconds, but they were on the cover. And they're also on the cover, but these are photos not from the era in which this movie was made. These are photos like from whenever this release happened, which was quite a bit later, presumably, based on how they look. Yet, the thing is, the VHS looks so fucking dope. I like love that art so much. I'm honestly kind of like amazed that Trick or Treat has yet to get like a fancy like boutique like Blu-ray release yet. And same thing with Rocktober Blood, honestly, because I feel like both are super cult classics that people are after. Also, just on that same note of Ozzy and Gene Simmons, fun fact. So Trick or Treat is basically about a rock star who dies, and it is paranormal, yada yada yada. Anyways, this fictional rock star that the movie surrounds, Sammy Kerr, was originally supposed to be played by Blackie Lawless of Wasp. However, it didn't work out. However, both Gene Simmons and Ozzy were asked to play Sammy Kerr, but both denied the role but agreed to a cameo, which, to be completely honest, since there were no actual rock stars who agreed to do this and just some dude, I feel like that ended up actually being better than it being somebody recognizable within the genre especially. So if you're here, you might relate to our main character here as a girl who grew up really into horror and really liking heavy metal, all that good stuff, extreme music, extreme movies, basically any kind of extreme media, I was all over kind of thing. I still am. I feel like a lot of us may relate, especially having like obsessive interest in the interests we do have that are considered abnormal. You might be able to relate or resonate with our main character, Eddie. So Eddie, he fits the bill as being the stereotypical like metalhead outcast, doesn't have very many friends, people pick on him, yada 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 kind of thing. And we dive into this movie as he is writing a letter to his absolute hero, who is Sammy Kerr. Personally, I feel like in like some regard, we all have our own Sammy Kerr in the sense that he is like the local hometown hero dude who graduated from Eddie's high school. He's alumni, grew up in that town. He grew up and got big and famous kind of thing. And Eddie is absolutely inspired by Sammy. Eddie is writing his letter and is preparing to send it off as he gets like the news on like the television that Sammy is no longer returning to his high school to play like their Halloween dance. And that Sammy had passed away in like a mysterious hotel fire. Naturally leaving Eddie absolutely like in distress and devastated that his one idol has passed, which brings him to going to go see Gene Simmons, known as Nuke, who is like a radio show host. So Nuke, he personally knew Sammy. They grew up together in this town, and knowing how much Sammy Kerr means to Eddie, he gifts Eddie a never before released record of Sammy's last material that's never been heard by anybody. That it was like supposed to be about some like big plan to play this record at midnight on Halloween, as Sammy had asked, and with the recent news of him passing, Nuke is respecting those wishes, as that is what he had wanted.
Eddie, what you've got in your hands right there is the only copy in the world.
And Eddie, being like the weird, nerding out about heavy metal kid, and this being his absolute idol hero, this is the best gift that anybody could have ever given Eddie. Like a one-of-a-kind, nothing else like this kind of gift from the late rock star. And this scene is just to serve emphasis on how awkward and weird Eddie is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. It's the pool party. It's the party at the pool.
However, high school hot girl, she doesn't care. She still likes Eddie and thinks he's cool, and invites him to a pool party with all the cool kids, and he just doesn't belong when we're here, and you feel bad for him. And she's nowhere to be found once he gets there, and he's just sticking out like a sore thumb, just drawing attention to himself from his bullies just by even being there to begin with. So then these kids literally casually attempt murder.
Jesus Christ.
And they shove fucking random bricks into Eddie's backpack. Everybody has some bricks lying around near a pool. They're shoving these bricks into his backpack and push him into the pool, thus making it difficult for him to emerge out of the water because he's sinking due to the weight. Eventually, the girl who invited him shows up, and Eddie naturally blows up because he feels like she had only invited him to make fun of him, considering that's kind of what he's used to, that people don't fuck with him. So Eddie, pissed the fuck off, goes home, blows off some steam by putting on some music really loud. This is his release, more or less. He puts on the record that Nuke gave him so he can, listen to Sammy's unreleased material. However, he falls asleep and has a really strange dream about the fire that Sammy had died in, and it's all weird and satanic and shit. Eddie wakes up to the record skipping and realizes something is off. And since he is, a metalhead from this era, he is one to be familiar with playing a record backwards for, the hidden messages or whatever, huge controversy around that. Anyways, Eddie, he plays the record backwards and realizes there are subliminal messages in the music and that Sammy is speaking to him from beyond the grave. And the record is inspiring to him because Sammy says to nail them all, and Eddie knows exactly what that means. That means nail the bullies, get them back. So with this inspiration, newfound confidence that Sammy has given him somehow, he decides to go and fight back the next day at school. And this is a super comical, slapstick comedy kind of sequence of him getting them and they're chasing around, yada yada yada. And then it ends with the bullies chasing Eddie, and they're trying to get him with a fire extinguisher, but then he tricks them into going to a room full of school staff. Eddie, he shows his friend the record, playing the backwards message, because he believes and he is convinced that this message is for him. However, Roger's yo, you're fucking crazy. This is what it is. It doesn't really actually mean anything to you specifically. And again, Sammy is speaking directly to Eddie via the record and is telling him to take revenge against his bullies, and it's all part of the big plan because he had lived a similar experience when he was a teen. By the way, I just want to say Eddie, he looks appropriately his age, whereas the bullies look like they're fucking 30. The bullies come at Eddie, of course, next day at school. However, it kind of backfires because one of them trips and falls and almost ends up in one of those workplace safety videos in terms of electrical or woodworking equipment. And Eddie is given the choice to whether or not to save them or not. He does, but at the very last minute when things are getting tense and things may not, it's a little risky at that point. Eddie's driving recklessly, yet he is protected by the power of metal. Eddie's out and about. His mom is putting his laundry away in his room. However, his stereo system becomes like possessed and is like blasting music so loudly that it's like shattering glass. And at this point, Eddie's like a whole new guy with like the power of heavy metal by his side.
Gotta go. Ciao.
Eddie, he leaves a tape for one of his bullies as a peace offering. However, the bully doesn't actually end up listening to it. His girlfriend does. However, the tape is possessed, which you can obviously tell via the green fog coming out of the cassette and making her horny ? I think that's like a paranormal thing, right? She begins to have like a paranormal ghostly orgasm when like a monster appears, and you think that she dies, but she is just merely hospitalized, but like what the fuck? And the bully then he like comes back from like taking a piss or whatever and realizes that that's the tape that Eddie gave him. Now, this kind of does nothing for the plot, but I do want to point out Ozzy's cameo.
Reverend, let me ask you a question. This album, Do It Like a Dog. Now, this has to be about animal behavior. Is that right?
Let me give you an example. I have one of the lyrics. You will
right.
Tell me what you honestly think it's
Go right
about.
ahead.
Gonna drive my long steel missile down on your love channel. Deep, deep, you'll beg for more. Raising hell and serpent score. Feel me, feel me. Now, what does that mean to you? To me, it means nothing but a sexual act.
Eddie finds out that the bully's girlfriend ended up in the hospital after listening to the tape that Sammy had him go leave for them. And at this point, he tries to talk to Sammy because he thinks that things are going too far now, because he didn't want to actually hurt anybody, but things are bigger and better. Not better. They're worse. They're bigger than he could have ever imagined. Eddie tries to end this weird like situationship between him and the rock star from beyond the grave. However, Sammy Kerr is not taking no for an answer. Sammy has no intentions of ending this, so then he begins to fuck with Eddie himself as well. Eddie tries to, unplug his sound system, but he can't due to the paranormal forces that are at work here. Sammy Kerr is now here in the flesh, kind of. He basically comes out of a speaker and is now face to face with Eddie for the first time. Sammy just basically comes to say his piece, and that is basically to tell Eddie that he should be being loyal, more or less. And this sparks Eddie to destroy his record, the sound system, etc., in hopes of preventing any of this from happening again and hopefully destroying Sammy Kerr in the process. But that's not really how that works. Eddie, in the most fucking vague sense ever, tells his BFF Roger to go and track down the tape that the bully has and destroy it without telling him actually why or what's going on. Roger naively goes and steals the tape. However, he puts it on when he gets home, which then makes him also receive a visit from Sammy Kerr in the flesh.
Roger. I am a big fan of yours. I have all your records. Shut up!
Sammy commands Roger to play the tape at the Halloween dance tonight, otherwise he dies. Dun, dun, dun. What is Roger gonna do? Is he gonna fucking do it? Is he gonna be a bitch? Is he gonna... What is it? Is he gonna shit? Roger follows through with what Sammy had commanded him to do. I guess Roger isn't aware of the fact that he's gonna die regardless. So, sure. Eddie's at home. He's grounded because of his whole episode of destroying all of his shit. Anyways, the hot girl, she calls him from the dance, and he can hear in the background the demonic tape playing. Now he is rushing to the dance to go and end it all. Eddie's car is possessed by a tape that he has in it, causing him to have zero control of the car, what he's doing while driving. So here we are at the Halloween dance, and they have an actual live band that's supposed to play. However, Sammy Kerr explodes out of their amp, and everybody thinks this is chill and normal and cool. The band included. I guess it's his show now, and the students, they naively think that this is some sort of tribute, and they are saying funny shit oh shit, it's even better than the real Sammy Kerr, and all that shit. Really hyped. And that is until Sammy Kerr starts shooting lightning bolts out of his guitar at random audience members and killing them. Naturally, at this point, audience members are starting to realize what's really going on here and that they are in danger. However, as they try to flee, unsuccessfully, Sammy, just continues to kill and destroy the building in the process. So Eddie arrives in the midst of all the chaos and tries to help and figure out what he can do. And even he even tries to save the bully that's been tormenting him. However, he chooses not to listen to Eddie and gets fucking murked by Sammy right then and there. So Eddie and Leslie, this is the first time we're getting her name, the hot girl from earlier that invited him to the pool party. Anyways, they're starting to go try to find the school's breaker or whatever, because apparently, I guess Sammy Kerr is somehow an electrical paranormal entity. That's a little beyond me, but whatever. Sure. Don't ask too many questions, right? If the power is out due to him being an electrical demon or whatever, it stops Sammy. So therefore, on their way out, they're on their way to the radio station to prevent Nuke from playing the tape at midnight, like how he was supposed to as a tribute. They are on a stereo-destroying rampage in the process. They are unsuccessful. They do not make it to the radio station in time to prevent Nuke from playing the record. And chaos ensues. Lots of little fun moments here. We get to see Sammy Kerr get electrocuted in a toilet. Eddie lures Sammy into a police car by playing the tape from the radio station and throwing in the car, summoning Sammy. He's taunting him to try to make him come out. Eventually meeting again face to face. Eddie drives the car over an unfinished bridge, causing the tape to short circuit once it hits the water. And by proxy, this kills our late rock star, Sammy Kerr. And that is the end. Long live Sammy Kerr. Anywho, let's get into it. So my thoughts on Trick or Treat. I feel this movie is just absolute fucking classic and a staple. If you are interested into the rock and roll horror or heavy metal horror genre at all, this is a must watch. And plus it fucking takes place on/around Halloween, so what else can you ask for? And again, it's a really just kind of off the wall. It doesn't really have too much gore and kills. However, it makes up for that in having a really cool, unique story that I don't think I've ever seen something like this. And especially if you like this kind of movie, I would say this is definitely a must watch. Like I said earlier, I am a sucker for the rock and roll horror genre. I have the whole section dedicated to it on my shelf. And yeah, I just think this one's awesome. And it is totally free on YouTube right now. There is an upload right now as we speak. In addition, I feel this movie gives you nostalgia for a time that, personally, I wasn't able to experience. I'm too young for that, which is the 80s, and just so cool. Immersive story. I've never fucking seen a movie like this, and I feel Eddie is honestly a very likable character that you want to see come out on top in the end, kind of thing. You want him to defeat Sammy Kerr, and you kind of feel bad for him in a way because his idol passes away. He gets to be connected with him in this weird supernatural paranormal way, but then he ends up having to defeat him once he realizes his idol is evil. So at the end of the day, kids, remember, no gods, no masters, fuck all that shit. But yeah, needless to say, I really do love this one. I think it's really fun. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Now on to something that's somehow very similar and very different at the same time, and I have Rocktober Blood on tape here. Again, this also has a YouTube upload. I will link both of them down below. So Rocktober Blood, this is a movie for sure. I can start by saying that. So Rocktober Blood, we open up with a band in a recording studio, Billy I. Harper recording vocal tracks with his girlfriend, who is also the backup singer. Right now, I will point out some foreshadowing in these lyrics that Billy is singing. So Billy, he finishes up his parts and decides to take off to go bang some hoes or whatever, which is, I guess that's just what you did in the 80s, you know? Lynn decides to go do her vocal tracks. Oh, and by the way, it's 4:30 in the fucking morning. Obviously the best time to record an album. Lynn, she's just not really hitting things quite right. She decides to go go into the jacuzzi or whatever. However, while she is in the hot tub, Billy returns and he kills the sound engineers. Bro, that fucking last. Lynn discovers all the dead bodies and is super distressed and is like high-key a dumbass because she doesn't realize it's Billy until he's dead ass like,
And he's killed her.
I know. It was me.
despite the fact that like he literally fucking like left for 10 minutes, changed his outfit, and like is suddenly like a stereotypical like villain. But she doesn't like have any thoughts on that, you know? I'm just gonna jump through this. Basically, Lynn is saved by a security guard, whatever. Also, I just want to say this movie really packs a punch in the beginning for you to be bored for a long time in the middle. It is 2 years later. We are at the Rocktober Blood album release party. Let's fucking go! So, we have a reporter here explaining everything that Billy has been arrested, served time, and is being executed for the murder of 25 people, but we only saw 2. And it never gets explained whether or not he was killing these people over a course of time or when he was gone for like 10 minutes. He just fucking was murking motherfuckers in the streets, even though it's 4:30 a.m., so technically probably nobody's out in the streets. Yeah. Also, the reporter says this was a year ago, but we were just told this was 2 years ago on the fucking title screen, and it gets even reinforced later when somebody else is talking about that it was 2 years ago. Lynn is now being interviewed by the tour and everything in terms of Billy and like the execution and having to pick him out of a line. She says that she fingered him. I don't know if that's like normal corporal punishment or what. Lynn is told by somebody to go meet with her band manager, Chris, and she's trying to go find him, mix it into his office when somebody wearing... They call it a Halloween death mask. However, the technical term for this mask is a Halloween fangs mask. Like if you go into like Trick or Treat Studios or wherever they sell these, it's called like a Halloween fangs mask. Anyways, it is Billy. And you might be going, huh, what? That's not possible. That's fucking crazy. And guess what? That's what everybody else is saying too. Everything's that Lynn's fucking crazy, and Billy just proceeds to stalk Lynn and kill people around her. Yet, since none of it makes sense or is actually, like, attainable since he is dead, no one believes her. Lynn is working out with her girls, and she just keeps getting phone calls. The person keeps, like, calling and, like, hanging up, not saying anything. And then when they finally do say something, this is what they fucking say.
Blood. I want your hot, steaming pussy blood all over my face.
I don't know why. Just for the rest of the tone of this movie, this shit takes me off guard every time because it's just so absurd, but it's very reminiscent of like the phone calls actually in like Black Christmas. We get a kill. This shit's awesome. But despite the fact that Lynn is being stalked by a man who is supposed to be dead, she really has her blinders on and decides to go take a bath. Also, I just want to mention, we've just been watching Lynn do stuff naked for like the past 20 minutes. Nothing really to be missed here. Until fucking Billy, he shows up. And he's in Joker paint. I'm a lot like Joker. Billy proceeds to chase Lynn throughout her house in the woods. Everybody thinks that Lynn's fucking crazy, reasonably so. And to prove that she is not crazy, she decides to go dig up Billy's grave, which is a crime. She's here with her driver, Honey, who is also like somehow a part of her crew for the band. And then while we're here digging up this grave, despite her manager, Chris, having his reservations because his green card would be taken away, he decides to join. So we dig up the body. Billy, he's fucking dead as fuck. However, Lynn, she has like a hallucination that he like comes out and is like, you know. Fast forward the next day, the band, they're preparing for their show when Billy shows up and he murders Honey, the woman who's a part of their crew who went to go help Lynn out last night. Alright, let's fucking go, guys. Fucking buckle down for this information I'm gonna tell you. So, in case you didn't see it coming, Billy traps and corners Lynn and reveals that he's not Billy. He's Billy's evil twin, John. Also, like, coincidentally revealing that he's actually the musical genius behind their band. I'm sorry, I can't remember what the fuck they're called. I just remember the album's called Rocktober Blood, because that's what the movie's called. which I feel like is a really weird choice. Anyways, so he revealed that he's the musical genius behind it all, and Billy stole all of his songs and made it big with his music that it wasn't Billy's right to do. So he's jealous and is killing everybody. John chloroforms Lynn and puts her in a prop coffin on stage before showtime. Also, I've never fucking seen a band start with a guitar solo before, but like, I'm fucking down. Fuck it, let's go. And now it's showtime, and guess what? It's actually fucking sick. I'm a sucker for this. This shit's pretty awesome. However, like, the band's just rolling with this like this is normal at this point. Lynn, she's still in that coffin, and John is acting as Billy Eye and is on the stage. He has the Fangs mask on and everything and is putting on a show. And the band doesn't really seem to question that they have a vocalist that's not Lynn, since he's clearly a male. And John, he starts killing people on stage, but everybody thinks it's a part of the show. Rock and roll, baby. Lynn, she's brought onto the stage from her coffin, and then this is when John reveals to her that it is his plan to kill her as the grand finale. Lynn is singing like the song from the beginning, Rainbow Eyes, and John is basically acting as like a mascot and like dancing around on the stage and like trying to like attack her and stuff, but everybody thinks it's cool and part of the show. And then John removes his mask, and clearly he's Billy's twin brother, so they look the exact same. And for some reason, nobody gives a shit. John then sings "I'm Back," the song from earlier. That was all the foreshadowing for what we're about to get into. Anyways, with Lynn handcuffed to him. And then finally, after several minutes of Lynn in danger, John is struck by a guitar and continues to finish singing the song as the credits roll. So here's the thing. Rocktober Blood, I fucking love this movie, but it fucking sucks. Like, in the sense of, like, this is, like, a really awesome, like, hilarious movie. However, it's bad. Like, in the sense of, like, I feel like, I mean, that whole middle section with, like, no action and you can't really bring yourself to care. Like, that whole situation. But it all gets kind of made up for by, like, the awesome music from the band Sorcery, who did the soundtrack. And again, with, like, the aesthetics. I feel like both the beginning and the end make up for the shit in the middle. And the reason why I say that Trick or Treat and Rocktober Blood are very similar but different, because they're both rock and roll horror movies with dead rock stars to some degree, more or less. However, I feel like Trick or Treat is actually very good all throughout, and it's pretty awesome, and it's consistent, and it doesn't drag. There's nothing, I don't really have anything bad to say about that movie. But then Rocktober Blood, I'm like, that movie fucking sucks, but it's awesome in like that kind of way, and it has that charm to it as well. Whereas I don't think it's nearly as accessible as Trick or Treat, in the sense I don't think somebody could just watch Rocktober Blood and be like, I was fucking in love with this movie, because it has like that shitty charm. You know what I mean? It takes the right kind of person. So if you want like some cheesy goodness, rock and roll horror, etc., these both will probably fit what you're looking for pretty well. Trick or Treat is like a legitimately very good movie. Rocktober Blood is kind of questionable at best, but it's still really fucking fun. And Rocktober Blood also has way more kills too. So just depending on what you're looking for, depends on which one will suit your interest a bit better, but I think they're both awesome. I highly recommend both. However, if you're a fan of this genre or just like this kind of vibe, both are going to suit you regardless. And I feel like these are both October/Halloween time must-watches. And with that being said, both of these, I do own the physical formats, yet there are 2 full YouTube uploads of these movies, and I'll have them linked down below so you guys can go ahead and watch them yourself if you would like. Thank you guys so much for watching. As per usual, all my links will be listed down below with the links to the movies, my letterbox, my socials, yada yada yada. Please subscribe, like it if you like it, and then let me know, have you seen these movies? Do you enjoy them? Do you have any other rock and roll horror movies to recommend me? I just want to say, this has been a really fun October with you guys. I did this whole month trying to do a video every week, along with that big ass letterbox list of all the Halloween movies. I've had a blast doing this. I'm really glad that I've also been able to realistically actually accomplish my goal of doing that for this, especially in addition to things in my personal, because Halloween is my favorite, so everything, I'm just trying to do all the Halloween stuff, and this year I got to go to 3 haunted houses, which that, like, never fucking happens, in addition to, you know, I might trip to Seattle to go to a show, and then even fucking, I have Halloween plans that are concrete this year, I have costume, everything. This has been, like, the most perfect Halloween season. In November, I'll probably be going back to my, like, whatever I fucking feel like uploading type thing every other week or so. And let me know if you have any suggestions. Please, things that are, like, free to watch, etc., etc. And hopefully we'll have some banger-ass videos. I have a couple of videos in mind. And again, if you just have any recommendations in general for movies, please just let me know. It's all I fucking do. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been me, Ellie, aka Looks from the Crypt, and I am out. Happy Halloween!